Texas Tech football coach Joey McGuire with me, David Smoak on 365 Sports. You have 3 losses. It's by a combined of what I think is like 15 points or so, 17 points. And you know, you're hit and miss in some ways, but I was looking at your offensive stats, and everything seems to be on the uptick against last year as far as analytics. Let's start with that. What do you think is missing right now?
I think offensively, the turnovers really got us early. You go to the Wyoming game, we gave up. We were driving the ball and had a big turnover. The Oregon game, we were up 9, just blocked a punt, fixed to go up, whether it be, 12 or 16, and we throw it right back to Oregon. And so, it just really, if you look at last year's passing game, this year's passing game, and we have been off, and really off whenever you go to the West Virginia game. The one thing that is going right is Taj Brooks and that offensive line. We've been able to run the football and really lean on him, and had 2 100-yard rushers last week, and we really need that to carry over.
Joey, is this week against Baylor awkward, or did last year playing the game and they won, and they won at the end pretty decisively?
Yeah.
Does that help that last year's game was played? I know you don't like the result. Is this still kind of awkward?
It's emotional. I loved my time at Baylor. I love the people at Baylor. I'm not where I'm at without, Baylor University. And so, first time back in McLean, only been on that sideline whenever it was during the spring games because the defense was always over there with Rule and Aranda. So I think we're still a year away from, but I think it always will be, man. I have special memories. I have great friends on that staff. I don't know if I know there's a lot of people happy about that win last week, but man, I was ecstatic that Baylor came back and beat UCF because, I'm great friends with some of those guys, and we're both teams are kind of going through it. Both teams have been banged up. Both teams have lost games. If you look from the outside in, we shouldn't have lost. And so I totally feel and understand what those guys are going through, and they're some real good friends of mine. And so, man, it's going back for the very first time to Waco. Is going to be it's going to be great. I have so many great memories in that stadium, but it's going to be emotional. And then you're still for the most part. You've got that class of 18 that's still there. The TJ Franklins, the Gabe Halls, the Matt Joneses, guys like that are, I was around those guys a lot. They were over at the house. They played with Garrett. And so still seeing a lot of familiar faces on the field making plays. So still a little bit a ways away from that, too.
Sometimes rivalries are based on regionality, conference, or just long-time series, dramatic games, upsets, etc. Are you both, you would think, Tech and also Baylor, also in not a turf war, that sounds negative, but kind of in a fight for the same type of players?
Yeah, whenever you're looking at really the new Big 12, and everybody as a whole is trying to establish herself, as the upper echelon of the teams, and then you're recruiting the state of Texas, with my background of Dallas-Fort Worth and the proximity of Dallas-Fort Worth to Waco, you're recruiting a lot of the same guys. We've gone heavier into Houston the last 2 years, and again, Baylor being in Central Texas, it's easy to get to, from Houston. So you're going, when you're recruiting the state of Texas as heavy as we both do, you're going for a lot of the same guys, in the recruiting wars.
Do you feel like, and there was so much momentum coming out of last year, and Shuck back, and I know he went down, unfortunately, with the injury, and I know you had some questions about the quarterback play and whatever. There was a lot of momentum, and there were expectations that you wanted, and the program wanted to be a part of those. Do you feel like the honeymoon period is over?
Man, I don't know. I never even think of the honeymoon period. You either win or lose. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like it's one of those deals. You either win games, you lose games. You know, the thing that I've actually addressed it. Going into the Houston game, I asked my team. I said, did I approach this wrong? Do y'all feel like I put too much pressure on you? I've never been one of those guys. I mean, people. It's funny, I hear different things from different fan bases about myself, and I'm always positive. I'm optimistic. I'm not going to change. And so what I asked the team is like, did I talk too much about who I think we are? And, the good thing to an extent, I have a very mature group of leaders. And, again, they were like, Coach, we don't feel that. We're just not playing well enough in critical situations to win games. No matter who we're playing. I mean, we've had 3 one-score losses and had the opportunity to, win each one of those games, and we're just not playing, good enough football. And we're, quite frankly, we're going through the same stuff that Baylor's going through. I mean, I've been doing this for 29 years, and I don't know if I've had a year like this with the injury bug that we're having. And it's not really the guys that you lose for the season, but, this guy gets banged up. I tell everybody, man, when you lose your best defensive player in Jacob Rodriguez after causing a turnover, recovering a turnover, and kind of taking a cheap shot from the running back, you lose him. Hopefully we get him back for K-State or BYU. I mean, it changes a lot of stuff. Now, all of a sudden, you're playing a redshirt freshman at linebacker, and, and how many snaps that guy's taken. That guy's got to step up. I mean, you're still going to kick the ball off, whether you got injuries or not. The game is going to be played at 7:00, and so it's one of those deals. Just trying to, battle through the expectations that we haven't lived up to yet, and then also just that next man up mentality, and so it's yet last week was a big week, I think, for both teams to kind of be able to take a deep breath and win a football game.
Joey, you mentioned Rodriguez, that injury that's unfortunate. And then, of course, you have a guy that's in the NFL who's a first-round pick in Tyree Wilson. Has that been difficult to, overcome how disruptive he was?
I think it's a mixture. I think the two things. One, you never want to lose, or losing a guy like that, man, it's always going to affect you. We have not done a very good job. We were better in the second half, much better in the second half against Houston, but we have not done a very good job of staying in our rush lanes. We're allowing quarterbacks to step up, and we're really a lot of times sacks happen. You have a good rush, but your partner next to you, he might not get home, but he, made the quarterback move with his rush, and it moves right into you. And, we've been, if you go back, really the first 2 games that we played, we gave up probably 70-plus yards of quarterback scrambles, and one guy's getting home, but another guy's getting out of his rush lane. And it's just the discipline of that, where Tyree probably can overcome some of that just because he's so special. We've got to be more in sync, in our rush lanes. And it really showed up in the second half. We put a lot more pressure and really we're able to affect the quarterback, not necessarily with a sack, but we got him off his mark and put a lot of pressure on him.
I know you can't talk about commitments until they sign in December or February, but you have something coming in. You're at the quarterback position. I remember Barron had to play last year. You had to play all of them. Donovan, who you just saw from Houston, and obviously with Shuck. Do you feel good about where you are, especially since when people think about Patrick Mahomes and where he played college, even though sometimes the win-loss record was sporadic, he is like the guy in the NFL. Do you feel like quarterbacks want to come to Tech to be a part of that history and tradition?
Yeah, I do. I think it's a mixture. I think one, the tradition and how hot Pat is right now, and man, he is a diehard Red Raider. You look at that quarterback series, and 9 out of 10 shots of him, he's wearing Texas Tech gear. I mean, he's all in. He's been amazing. Really to get to know him more, and then the other part is Kitley's offense. There's so much on the quarterback, and I think quarterbacks want to play in that system to where they have a lot of control, and what we do whenever it comes to the play calling and what they can get in and out of, and so I think that quarterbacks want to play in this system, and we've got a really good one in Baron Morton, and to be his second start this year, and I think he's going to keep getting more and more comfortable, in that spot.
How much does last year's game in Lubbock when Baylor won have any impact whatsoever, if at all, Saturday night?
Well, I think you go back to that game. We did a good job early, but late, they really were able to run the football, and so I think we've got to do a good job of. I don't know. It's hard to stop Baylor's rushing attack, but do a good job of containing the run, and then they did a good job on defense. A really good job. I thought it was probably the best game plan that we played last year when we played Baylor, and I think we grew off of it. I think it definitely helped us whenever we played Oregon, to be more effective on offense, and so I think now we've got to do a good job of we didn't play very well on offense last year. We didn't keep the defense off the field enough. We didn't keep us in the game, enough. And so I think it's important that we go out and try to take advantage. We've been running the football really effective, so we want to continue to run the football, but we've got to take advantage of being able to throw the football too. And that was something that they did a great job of taking away from us last year.
You were on the team, and again, Joey McGuire, Texas Tech. And Joey, just a couple more questions. Saturday night, 7 o'clock, McLean Stadium, Baylor and Tech get together. You were there when Baylor recruited Blake Shapen. He, of course, had the dramatic conference championship game performance in 2021. Last year, the offense was sporadic, and that showed in their record. Heard earlier this year, maybe even more so of a heart and soul, maybe leadership more than anything else, based on what Dave Aranda has said. What do you see in Blake Shapen, and what did you know about him when he arrived at Baylor?
Well, Garrett was his host, and Garrett will tell you that he never lost a guy that he hosted. And so I know Blake really well, and man, I'm a huge fan, and you said it perfectly, and I'm sure coaches said it. He is the heart and soul. Not to take away from anybody, and it's you could probably say the same with us of different guys, but they don't win that game last week without Blake Shapen. Blake Shapen, it was a will to win the game. It was really two. Whenever you really show up, is Matt Jones on defense and Blake Shapen on offense. Those two guys were like, we're going to win this game, and you could see by the way he played. That I said it earlier to my staff, I felt like they would have beat Utah if Blake plays in that game. A healthy Blake Shapen plays in that game. He just brings a different element of throwing the football. He's so accurate. We saw him go 17 for 17 in the Big 12 championship of 2021, to start the game. I mean, he's extremely accurate and has a good feel for that offense. And so, man, I'll tell you, Blake, and he's a dude now. He plays the game. I mean, just the last play of the game for him. Here's a guy coming back from hurt, and he scrambles to put him, center the ball, nearly get the first down, and that's the way he plays. He plays, he really doesn't care. He wants to go win. The winning part is more important. When you have a trigger guy like that, then you got a chance to be really good on offense.
Last question. The game in Dallas this week is Texas and Oklahoma. They both seem to be rolling pretty well. This is the last year for them. And so people are waiting on who's going to step up and be the team or programs that lead the way in the Big 12. How important, I know the Oregon lost it, Baylor lost to Utah, they got thumped by Texas. How important is it for the Big 12 of the schools coming back and the incoming schools from the Pac-12 start to pick up some nice wins?
Yeah, I think it's really important. Number one, you're bringing in a really good Utah team, that is and has traditionally played extremely well, and especially of late, playing in the Rose Bowl and doing so many great things. But I think it's important right now. I would probably say the leaders right now, if you're talking about just coming off of last year, going into this year, even though they lost a tough game, is, TCU and K-State. I mean, those are the two teams that played in the Big 12 championship. They played in New Year's Six bowl games and in the playoffs. And so I think those are the two teams that, if you're saying who's leading the new Big 12 right now, but you got an opportunity. There's a lot of season left, and there's going to be some teams step up and go into the last part of this Big 12 season, putting themselves in good position.
Joey, thank you, man. Always appreciate you, and good luck this week, and also good luck the rest of the way. Always appreciate the fact you give me the access you do, and we appreciate your time.
You bet, man. Thank you.
So Joey McGuire, head football coach at Texas Tech on 365 Sports.